due diligence by the administration and by council on the issue of whether the existing site at Reasoner Street is an appropriate site for what's proposed. I haven't seen a preliminary plan. I don't know, for instance, whether the personnel that are now housed downtown in the administration building are proposed to be moved over there, whether the site, you know, is subject to flooding and that sort of thing, whether physical work has been done, and also an evaluation of whether another site might be more appropriate. As I just mentioned, I think it would be an economic development benefit to somewhere close in on the rail lines if we could put the police station. I don't think there'd be any adverse effect. I don't think there'd be a jail, as I understand it, associated with it, so it'd just be another office building. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to bring it up and hope that we don't, by approving this contract, we don't move down the line toward trying to implement it without an examination of those issues. And the second thing that I'd like to raise is I know that an out-of-town law firm is recommended for this. I know that they have substantial qualifications, but public-private partnerships, which is, I think, the thing that they're particularly claim expertise in, it is something that's pretty widely done by a number of law firms. I know we have examples of it here. We have these stadiums that were done with public-private partnerships. We have, I believe, the last hotel with public-private partnerships. And I think they're trying to participate from California by Skype. And I think the advantage of having, you know, a local law firm that could, I mean, it's going to take a while to do this project. So there'll be meetings and discussions, and I think that things could be brought up by a local firm that might not be noted by an out-of-town firm. So I think that I know there are a number of qualified ones that could do it. So for those two reasons, I think that we ought to reconsider this matter until we have a discussion, further discussion of those items.
Councilmember, we have presented on more than one occasion the process of moving to a new justice complex for the municipal courts and the police department, starting probably 3 years ago when we indicated that we would be doing a sale leaseback of the current police headquarters on Travis. And so it has been quite evident to council members that our intention is to consolidate all the police headquarters functions into one facility, since the Travis headquarters is actually actively on the market, won't be retained. The decision as to the final siting of a location has not been made, and we fully expect to continue periodic briefings to the Public Safety Committee on the progress. Hawkins and Delafield and Wood is one of the premier public-private partnership law firms across the United States, and we believe this is a complicated process and project and deserves the best firm available. Chair recognizes Councilmember Bradford.
May I probably just stand down at this time?
Councilmember
Mayor,
Laster.
Could I respond?
Okay, can I put you back on the queue?
Sure, thanks.
Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that this particular firm has no attorney's license in the state of Texas. Is that correct, Mr. Feldman? Mayor, may I ask Mr. Feldman to direct the question?
I don't know whether they do or not.
In light of that, can you explain to us, because I don't know how the designation of their qualifications has come to be or what that's based
You
on?
can use an attorney from a different jurisdiction to engage in a commercial matter. In this instance, this firm is going to be, for example, advising the city in connection with its request for proposal. There's no requirement that they be licensed to practice in the state of Texas in order to do that.
Were we under any obligation to seek counsel inside the state of Texas first, or to put this out for bid or anything like that, or is this with the
Well,
professional
in fact,
services?
we went through a detailed process. We didn't do this in a vacuum with council member. We sent out a request for qualifications. We received submissions by a variety of law firms, some within the state of Texas, some in Houston, some outside the state. went through a very deliberative process of reviewing their proposals, their qualifications, the rates that they were going to charge. As the mayor pointed out, Hawkins Delafield happens to have more expertise than any other firm in connection with P3 projects. And there have not been a lot of P3 projects in the United States. They're also the firm, as we point out in the RCA, that handled the Long Beach Courthouse project, which is most related to what we're doing with the Justice Complex. So this was done after very considered thought. Their rates were also equal to or better than our local rates, even though they're a New York firm, not a California firm. We're not going to be specing anybody in California. They clearly stood out.
Is there a body that reviews firms and gives them ratings as to a certain amount of knowledge or expertise that a firm will have? For instance, an AB rating out of the, is there a body like the American Bar Association or somebody like that how have we come to the designation that this is the premier firm in this particular area of the law? Who's made that determination?
Myself and my lawyers do extensive research of the firms in the United States who do this kind of work. The ABA doesn't have any kind of classification for firms that do P3s. They are AB rated by Martindale and Hubble, as I am, and as many lawyers are. But no, there is no separate designation.
Thank you.
Councilman Kubak?
I'd like to address the fact that my colleague, Mr. Pennington, has talked about the possibility of relocating courts to another area and the criminal justice system, justice complex. And he mentioned the rail line. There is a rail line that's going to end right there at the 61 regional location. And I want to go on record as being for it staying there. The police union wants us to stay there, and I believe that it should remain where it is.
Not the subject of the discussion today, but it is, at this point, the preferred site. But that determination has not been made and won't be made until council has an opportunity to weigh in. Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe that the RFP, the initial RFP as well, allows for the possibility of another site that we deem that that's appropriate. So it's not totally out of the question. In terms of this firm, I know public-private partnerships have occurred here in the U.S., but not as common. For example, in other countries like the European Union, where they're a lot more common. But even here at the state level in 2011, the legislature passed the Public-Private Infrastructure Act, understanding that this is kind of a new wave of possibilities with P3 agreements with the lack of funding in different municipalities. So this is, relatively speaking, something new. And I do like the fact that this particular firm has been involved in the Long Beach Justice Complex. That's been fairly recent, and that's perhaps the model that I'm going to be looking at to learn more about these P3 partnerships and how they apply to justice complexes, because I think, you know, if I'm correct, that's probably the best model that we have out there today that has similarities to what we're trying to do. So they have a very unique expertise in having worked through that project. And today, it's my understanding that justice complex over there has worked really well and is well positioned in terms of the maintenance over the next 35 years and what have you. So they have very unique expertise, and it's tied to a justice complex. So I think that's very relevant to this. So ideally, it'd always be great to have a local firm, but it seems that they're the best position to be able to deliver what we need. And plus, if I'm correct, I believe they also provided the best rates as well. So, thank you very much.
Councilmember Stardy.
Thank you, Mayor. It was my understanding when meeting with Chief Feldman in Finance that this would be coming to committee, and part of the evaluation of the process would be to evaluate the real estate opportunities before making any decisions or final recommendations to council. If that's not the case, I'd like to be corrected, because that was one of my concerns.
Absolutely, Councilmember. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Favor, opposed? Item carries. Councilman Finney voting now.